And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now.
Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Plz on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 29th of May, 2009. It is 7 p.m. in Britain. It's actually not. It's 7:30 in Britain. And it's 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. In other times, it is other places, but the only thing you need to know is that this is the show. What do we got coming up in the show today? Well, I can tell you for a fact that the much-delayed interview with Kwoh from Popcap Games is coming up a little bit later. It's a mammoth one, folks. It's 28 minutes of great content. He talks about the add-on policy, he talks about Popcap Games, development of the Peggle mod, as well as the Bejeweled mod, and we talk a little bit about casual versus hardcore. Well, more a case of WoW's casual nature and how a developer in an actual casual game company plays WoW, and you might be a little bit surprised. So yeah, that's going to be cool, and that's coming up later on in the show. Also, we'll be having a look at Ulduar, and since it's been out for a little while now, and a lot of us have had a lot of progress through it, we're going to take stock and see how it compares to previous instances. Is this really the work of genius that it was claimed to be? We shall see. Also, of course, you'll get your chance to add to this show, to bring a little bit of love and content to this particular radio station. It's the illusion of choice! Email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com if you wish to participate. Submit a topic, it might get picked for the end of the show. Who knows? Who knows? Now, a couple of things I need to say before we go on to the mail time and the much maligned drop-in, which will return despite your hideous protest. We've actually got a poll on the forum right now that says, do you or do you not hate the mail time drop-in? And about 65% of people seem not to hate it. And then about 35% do. Or was it 20%? And then about 11% were indifferent. I don't know. Whatever the case, you're getting it. You don't have a choice. So, first things first. I will be on the Rawcast show tomorrow, and I expect every single one of you to turn up and bring your friends and bring everyone you possibly can. Why? Well, it's a matter of pride more than anything. We wish to break their live listenership record, which was 500 for the one and only Terpster. I feel we can probably do better than that, considering our listenership record for live would be something along the lines of... what was it? Yes, now I remember.
It's over 9,000!
Oh yeah. The amount of servers we had to burn for that one. Sacrificing goats and all manner of things. It was pretty horrendous. Now, if you wish to participate in this show, and I would certainly recommend that you do, it is going to be on tomorrow at 2200, which is 10 o'clock in the evening, British Standard Time, which I believe is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. And the link to this particular show, if I remember correctly, it's totally disappeared, hasn't it? Ah, yes. Ustream.tv/channel/the-Rawcast-show. There's a link on our front page if you want to check that out. They do theirs via Ustream. I don't know why, but they do. So you can pop in there and you can invade the chat room and do all manner of things. So yes, I expect you all to be there. Bring friends. Bring family. Bring people that don't even want to be there anyway. Force them. Blackmail. Bribery. All manner of things. Whatever it takes. It'll be fun. I can guarantee it. You will see a very different side of me on that show. At least I think so. I've never really been on other people's shows before. I always deny their requests. Wonder why. Mainly because I'm an antisocial bigot. What can I say? Right. There's one other thing I need to say before we go on to the mailbag. And that is congratulations to our one and only Cadwallian, the master of the webs, for he is going to be a dad in approximately 9 months' time. So congratulations to you. Well done. You have successfully impregnated a female, which is more than the vast majority of WoW players can say. Well done. And I'm going to reward you by simulating what your first year will be like. Are you regretting it yet? Oh dear, I'm an evil person. You're never going to let me get away with that one. Right, from one terrible drop-in to another. Where is my terrible drop-in? Oh, yes, of course, it's over there. It's right next to the Juggernaut drop-in, which I never use. I stole Nocturnal Hordax drop-ins if you hadn't already realised. It's time for this!
That sounds like it's mail time! Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, it's time for the mailbag. And I must say, I need to stop paying so much attention to my mail. There's a reason for that, because sometimes people get it wrong. Now, the first email comes from... I actually had several emails, but I'm going to pick this one out specifically. It's from Knight of Osiris, and he says this. Greetings, TB. This past Monday, I went to deadlybossmods.com in order to update the add-on, and I was surprised to find what looked like a gold seller banner across the top of their page, and he attaches a screenshot. Checking their forums, there was a couple of threads regarding the appearance of this ad. Their site admin had posted this reply on the 17th of May, saying, well, we have very pragmatic reasons for this new ad. They generate more revenue. We previously had these buy fancy gold guide and get rich with the AH banners. The new banner is up since Friday. It will stay up for at least 1 month to see how it performs in comparison to other banners. And he's got a little star here that says, the banner you mentioned is $180 a month. We are certainly not becoming rich with that. Basically amounts to gold sellers pay us more money, so that's okay. Have the authors of one of the core rating add-ons sold out to gold sellers? Well, that's an interesting question. It is entirely possible that when this screenshot was taken that they had, yeah? Because their website looks very different right now. If you go to deadlybossmods.com, what you will notice are Google ads, similar to the ones that we had, yeah? We've got a gold ad there, well, they're both guides, yeah? Bear in mind, Blizzard doesn't like these either, yeah? We took a massive revenue hit because we had to blacklist those too. Now, they're not technically illegal, and they certainly don't break any rules, but Blizzard doesn't like them. And we're an official fan site, we get certain benefits from that, so, you know, we got to play ball. So, of course, we took that down and we took a massive revenue hit, which is not really helping our expansion plans, but you know what? It's about having a little bit of integrity as opposed to having a lot of money. To be honest, integrity can't be bought. Now, I did get a lot of emails saying, oh, well, they've sold out to gold sellers, and I was all ready to go on a rant about it, but to be honest, it looks to me like they've either removed the ad, or it may have been already part of a Google ad. You can't tell, because this little, I say little, this tower ad that they've got to the right-hand side of the page was not there in the screenshot. Which indicates to me, to be honest, that they were probably using Google Ads. Now, I can't say that I'm a particularly big fan of using unfiltered Google Ads, because they're very easy to filter. We filter ours. If you go to WCRadio.com right now, you should not see any gold ads whatsoever. And indeed, it's very rare when they pop up. It's difficult to stop them entirely, but we're pretty good at it. Our blacklist is very, very good. And what happens is, if you see a gold ad on our page in any form, there's a little report an ad link directly under the ad banners. Report it, we blacklist it, it's gone. And once we've got this list to be complete as we possibly can, we're going to release this blacklist so that other fan sites can use it too. Because we do not believe in advertising gold. It's as simple as that. In fact, we're violently against it. At least the vast majority of us are. Station policy that we hate gold ads. We hate gold farmers. Indeed, who wouldn't? The fact of the matter is these guys are crooks. They're criminals. They are responsible for hacking fan sites and innocent players. And it happens and is still happening. I believe Warcraft Movies recently got some code injected by gold sellers, keyloggers, with a deliberate attempt to hijack as many accounts as possible. And this happened to our site as well. It doesn't happen anymore, because thankfully we now have a site that's basically impregnable to that kind of thing. At least the incompetent fools over in China. But it sucks. I can't see a single reason that you would support that. It's basically this way. If you buy gold, you're supporting people that hack your friends' accounts. And to be honest, I think that sucks. Because you're not much of a friend. I mean, gold's not hard to get these days. Now again, not a fan of people having unfiltered Google ads, but they're certainly a lot better than actually selling ad space. So, I can't honestly make a call as to whether or not this was actually a Google ad or not. It's the same kind of shape, from what I can tell, same kind of size as a Google ad. It doesn't have the Google ad thing underneath it, but since I didn't have the opportunity to click it, well, there's not a lot I can really do. So I can't go and claim that, hey, they're sold out to gold farmers, because by the looks of it, that's not the case. They've just put some Google ads up. There's nothing wrong with having Google ads up, there's nothing wrong with making a bit of revenue, but what I will say to fan sites, for God's sake, if a gold selling site, and they've come to us frequently, I mean, for God's sake, I've had offers to buy the site in mid to high figure numbers, 5 figures at least. Some old guy offered me 6 figures. I don't believe that that was the case. The chances are I was just lying. But, I've had people come and offer to buy the site out and all that stuff. And we know what happened earlier on with the buyouts of various different sites early on in WoW's life. We know that Thoughtbot and Alakazam, at first instance, got bought by a company that was owned by gold farmers. Now, as far as I'm aware, Alakazam, and indeed everything around Zam Media, is no longer owned by gold farmers. That's not the case. They split off. But back in the day, they were. And that was lousy. And to be honest, I don't want to see that continue to happen. So please, please, please be careful what you advertise. Yes, I realise that revenue is tight right now. It's a recession. It sucks. But that doesn't mean you have to sell out your principles for a little bit extra moolah. It's not great. Also, I just had a very interesting tweet that says, do you always insult your listenership? Answer, yes. As much as humanly possible. It's the privilege of being on air. They love it. Seriously, they take the abuse. They come back every week. Indeed, my show keeps getting more and more popular. I can't really figure out why that is. Oh well, never mind. Now, I've got one more email before I go to the break, and then we'll be coming back with the interview. Oh yes, and this one comes from Joseph Frisk. He says this: hey there, long-time listener, long-time player, whatever. I've heard a lot of your shows, and you're still the best in my ears. What? Wow, the best in your ears. As opposed to what? Little beetles crawling around in there. Now, he says, I heard you talking about leveling new characters and what a drag it can be. I've got 180 Druid, 180 Warrior, 180 Mage, and a ton of 50 plus characters at the moment. I'm leveling a Paladin, so I want to face roll all of the classes. Anyway, what I meant to say is this. I leveled them all on my own from level 1. No bonuses with XP or recruit a friend or anything like that, and yeah, it's a total drag doing the same quests over and over and over again. But I think it's necessary to do that if you want to know how to play the class. And the DK system, when they start at 55, is just terrible. I've played with a lot of DKs that simply do not know their class because they start off at level 55, and it sucks. But I would wish that Blizzard would put in some kind of system where the more experienced players don't need to do all the content once again, if you know what I mean. Best regards, Overpower, level 80, Feral Druid. Oh, I'm not going to read all those. That's crazy. Oh, and can you give a shout out to my girlfriend Scroller, who just dinged 80 on her Disc Priest? Shout out to her given. Right. It's understandable that people don't want to level up these new classes, and indeed I've mentioned previously that there are certain games like Guild Wars that seem to do it better. Once you level up one, you get to roll up all these others. But the problem is that it doesn't matter how an experienced a player you are. Yeah? Death Knights, if anything, are actually one of the easier classes to learn to play. Think about it. Think about what would happen if you had to learn, say... Let's say, talk a priest, yeah? If you had 25 levels in which to learn all of the priest skills, bear this in mind. Bear the way that the way the DK was staggered, And bear in mind how all the other classes are staggered. You learn your class gradually while going through the content. DKs are supposed to be for advanced players because it drops quite a lot on you all at once. But even then, it's not as complicated as if you compressed all of the skills that you learned, say, as a priest or whatever, into those 25 levels. So if you started a priest at level 55, look at all of the skills you would be stuck with and having to learn and working out what everything is. You see how terrible Death Knight players are? Well, you know what? A lot of those people obviously have an 80. Or at least a 55 plus. I would wager that the vast majority of DKs have an 80. Which means they are, by definition, one would think, experienced players. You can't quantify that. It's like, what do you count as an experienced player? Someone who's got 3 classes to 80? Well, you know what? I'm an experienced player, and I haven't got 3 classes to 80 because I can't be bothered. You know, it seems like I'm the very demographic that would benefit from that, yet I couldn't, because, say, I wouldn't have 3 level 80s or whatever. And then again, it doesn't matter how experienced you are, because still, learning the class in that kind of compressed time frame, that's hard. That is tricky stuff. Really. So to be honest, I don't think it's ever really going to happen. I think what they're going to just keep doing is accelerating the speed at which you can level. I think Recruit a Friend is a good idea. I think Recruit a Friend should perhaps be expanded into such a way that perhaps you can buy a triple XP bonus. So that's all you're effectively doing anyway. Buy the triple XP bonus for yourself and level through. I don't really want to keep having my friends buy new accounts or whatever and having to transfer through just to use the Recruit a Friend system. And I understand the Recruit a Friend system is dual purpose. Obviously, Blizzard was thinking that, hey, existing players will use this in order to power level characters, and this is going to be a legitimate power leveling service as a way of, say, derailing the existing power leveling services, and that's good. It would be nice to see it expanded into such a way that they just accepted that and said, yes, this is one of the reasons it's here, so here's a version where you don't have to buy a new account. Maybe you have to pay just for a month of a triple XP potion or whatever. It won't be the first game to do it. And then you could level nice and quickly. And I think that's the better way to do it. My name is TotalBiscuit, and you're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. I'll be back after this with the Popcap interview. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit, and our very special guest in the studio today. A little bit delayed due to technical difficulties, but better late than never. He goes by the name of Carl. He is from Popcap Studios, the casual game development house, the kings of casual, one might say, and he joins me in the studio today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Second time lucky, we hope, with this one. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in the company?
Sure. I'm an associate producer at Popcap Games, which basically means I do a little bit of game design, a little bit of project management, and a little bit of whatever needs getting done. So, kind of a jack of all trades.
A Swiss Army knife of Popcap Games, one might say.
Exactly. I can even code a little bit, but it's a very, very bad idea to have me do it.
I will bear that in mind for future. So, give us a little bit of history. How did Popcap first start out?
Sure. Popcap Games started out in 2000, I believe, and it was basically 3 guys, 2 of whom were pretty much straight out of college and just kind of doing some side projects with a internet company at the time, right before the internet bubble burst. And they decided to form up a new company because that seemed to be a great idea at the time, and did Bejeweled, and released it as kind of a free that they made money off of ads around the game, put it up on a bunch of different sites like MSN and Yahoo and portal sites like that, and then, you know, that kind of took off and was pretty successful, and then they tried, they kind of started the try and buy model, shareware 2.0, if you will, and they got a lot more successful with that, and the company kind of grew and grew, and they released more games, Bookworm and Zuma, and then Bejeweled 2, and then, you know, all the way to present day where we're a 200-person something company like that, and, you know, we just released Plants vs. Zombies, and Peggle's really big for us, and so that's kind of the short, quick, and dirty history of Popcap.
That's pretty impressive. Do you think the guys started out with the intention of creating casual games, or was that something that just happened to come along as you continued to develop titles?
From what I understand, when they kind of started out, I mean, Bejeweled was definitely meant to be like a casual title. It was designed to be kind of a game that anyone could play and their moms could play, and definitely had a more relaxed vibe. They weren't going for hardcore games, and it was kind of initially sort of a let's do this and then take that money and do other things. But they kind of found success with it and had a lot of fun making it, and had a lot of fun doing, what we call casual titles, so they stuck with it.
So, you're a WoW player, so I've been told, is that correct?
That is very correct, in fact.
And how long have you been playing the game?
Pretty hardcore for the last 3 years. I played it a little bit at launch, but then kind of the circle of friends I had that were playing it moved away and got busy with work and stuff. And then when I started at Popcap, ironically enough, I actually got into it pretty hardcore, and that's when I got, at the time, my max level 60s, and then Burning Crusade came out, and I started raiding and kind of just kept snowballing.
So you're saying you managed to get hardcore into the game. Are any of the other developers at PopCap Studios actually hardcore gamers?
Most of us are actually hardcore gamers.
Really?
It's pretty hard to be into games to the level to make them and not be hardcore. It's also a case of like anyone who's making games these days, kind of cut their teeth on hardcore games because there weren't really casual games exactly in the form that we call casual games for them to learn from. So pretty much every developer we have is a hardcore gamer.
There you go. Now, there was a mod that you released recently by the name of Peggle. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that mod actually came about?
The Peggle add-on kind of, ironically enough, came out of a dare. We had just finished up the Bejeweled add-on, which had, we had kind of found a guy who was using Bejeweled artwork, and instead of suing him or sending him a cease and desist, offered him a job. And
it was Bashard, wasn't it?
Yes, Bashard did. And he, Michael Frommuller was his name, and he took the contract, made Bejeweled, and it was great. And kind of towards the end of Bejeweled, when we released it, everyone was like, oh, you should do this game, and you should do that game, and a bunch of people said you should do Peggle, and said that their lives would be over if we did it, which wasn't exactly motivation, but we thought it would be funny to do Peggle because it's, so involved. It has this physics system, It's a much more involved game than Bejeweled, but we're like, there's no way the add-on API could ever really support a physics system and all the things that Peggle is. And the coder, Michael Frommuller, was like, I think I can actually make it work. I have some ideas. And we're like, we dare you to make it, basically. And he came back about a month later after his finals, and he had some spare time around winter vacation, and he's like, so here's and Peggle mostly working. And we're like, yeah, this actually works, so let's go ahead and make it. And it got greenlit in December, basically, and we released it in April. So,
well, it's a great mod, but there's been a couple of issues surrounding it, actually, over the past month or so. It was actually discovered that the Peggle add-on violates Blizzard's new add-on policy, which has not been so popular around here, I must say. And it was specifically Provision 4, which states that mods may not include advertising. Now, the Peggle add-on, as you're probably aware, explicitly advertises the PopCap Games website in one section of the add-on, which I believe is either the About section or just the main screen, which contains commercial products, as you are a company selling commercial products. So, did you speak to Blizzard about this prior to the add-on's release?
Yeah, we had a pretty open dialogue with Blizzard after the Bejeweled add-on. We kind of did the Bejeweled add-on just by ourselves. We didn't, tell anyone. And right that I kind of leaked it to a friend I had who was working as a DBA over there, and he kind of spread it around. And no one seemed to we weren't hit by any surprise cease and desist or anything. Yeah. So we went ahead and released Bejeweled, and after that, it turns out that Bejeweled was somewhat popular over there as an add-on, and so we kind of had a fairly open dialogue with them. We let them know we were doing the Peggle add-on and kind of talked to them, sent them builds as we were going along. They didn't have any direct hand in development, but we're just kind of keeping them aware of what was going on. And when the add-on policy came out, I had some concerns and I wanted to double-check, and so we communicated with them, and they said that, no, they didn't think it would affect us at all, and then when we released, we had another conversation with them, because we were trying to get them to, feature us somehow, and they ended up taking a look at it.
Which I believe they did.
Yeah.
They put you on the front page as a regular, yeah?
Yep. They put us in Community Spotlight. So they took a look at it, and that it was all right, so...
Fair enough. Now, it seems a little confusing, I must say, that the add-on policy is not particularly specific, because one could argue, perhaps, that the advertising clause is only really to get rid of people that plaster their add-ons with massive great adverts for gold and in-game hacks and whatever. But I suppose because it's not so specific, it's a little bit tricky to work it out. So, what do you think Blizzard's trying to do with the add-on policy?
I think they're trying to kind of lay out some ground rules and give themselves basically, hey, we warned you, so that they have something to refer back to when they come down on someone. I mean, this is total, I want to clarify, this is total speculation on my part.
Of course.
But, when I saw it released, I mean, I had a lot of concerns about, the language. It wasn't like specific, like you may only have advertisements in this part, or you can't advertise at all, or it was kind of these blanket statements that felt very subjective. It was like, I was worried, well, if person A reviews it at Blizzard, right now and says, oh, it's fine, is person B going to review it the same way, 6 months down the line or whatever? And I think that's, in some ways, probably on purpose. I have a feeling that they probably don't want to wrap up a ton of their resources in hardcore policing add-ons. I mean, just given the sheer number of add-ons that are out there.
Yeah, of course.
I think they just want to kind of cover their bases and have something to refer back to, but the actual policy is going to be basically like, don't be a dick with your add-on, and kind of the old thing of, we'll know a violation when we see it.
When we see it, of course.
So... But one thing I do want to kind of go back and clarify, though, is the advertisements for Popcap.com. It's just a one-line thing in the About section, which also talks about the company in general. And the reason we actually put it in there is not to advertise commercial products. I mean, I would love to be able to go to my bosses and say, look, I sold a copy of Peggle. But honestly, it's there for company information. Popcap.com is where we have all of our company information, our About page, our legal section, and our customer service. And in addition, we do offer many free games as well, so it's not an explicit, like, go buy games. It's, this is our website. If you need to find anything about Popcap, go there. So that's more of the intention, at least.
Indeed. Oh, that sounds good. Hopefully that's answered quite a number of questions that have been coming in, certainly from the add-on community that have been coming to my mailbox over the past couple of weeks. So, yeah, hopefully that's nice and cleared up for everyone. Now, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. I just want to actually broach one quick question. This is more of a personal bit of interest than anything else. Are there any plans to actually update your Bejeweled and Peggle mods in the future? Maybe add a little bit extra content, or fix that annoying spam that keeps coming into my guild every 2 minutes when someone wins at Peggle mod?
Actually, we've actually had pretty steady stream of updates on both. There was a big long space where we didn't update Bejeweled, but that was only because we were working on Peggle. We're actually Michael is going back as soon as he finishes finals, which are this week, I think, to go back and update some of the really big bugs in Bejeweled that we've had cataloged. We have repro steps. We just need to go back and update it. And around the same time, we're probably going to do another update for Peggle, which is a pretty quick one, to address the spam issues, actually. One of the things that we wanted to do was, in Peggle, we have kind of a button that says, hey, you can announce your score when you get a really good one, so you can share it with your friends and all this stuff. And in options, there's a thing where you can do it to guild or party or one other thing, raid, I think. But we labeled the button publish, because I'm like, oh, you publish your score, and I think a lot of people take that to mean as you have to press the publish button in order to save the high score. Not true at all. So we're actually going to go back in both Bejeweled and Peggle and add in the same feature where when you get to the high score screen on a game over screen, there's be a button that says like brag or announce the score or whatever, and when you click
Brag's
it,
good. I like brag.
Yeah, I kind of like brag myself too. And when you click it, it'll actually pop up another dialogue that says choose which channel you want to publish this to, and it'll remember what you last picked and make that the default. And so it'll be a 2-click system of people have to actually really intentionally mean to spam everyone in order to do it. And additionally, we're going to add custom channel support. So for all the people who hate having it in Guild, if you want to create a Guild Peggle custom channel, or, I think some servers even have server-wide or faction-wide, I should say, Peggle channels that people join to find dual partners and stuff like that. You can actually have it set where it won't spam Guild, it'll spam, your Guild Peggle channel or the server Peggle channel. So it'll hopefully stop some of the completely unnecessary spam, because we want people to know about the add-on and spread it to their friends virally, kind of, but
of course,
we don't really want to have people that frustrated with, God, why is there so much spam? So
yeah, actually, can we have a confirmation box, a second confirmation box that says your raid leader may dock you DKP if you press this button? Seriously, reconsider the channel you're using.
Well, we've gotten a couple of mails over the time the add-ons have been out from raid leaders going, can you build in a feature that just lets me disable this add-on across the board? Which, while as a raid leader, I can totally respect where they're coming from. From our perspective, that's kind of more of a social enforcement thing.
Yes, indeed. Right, now let's get on to WoW, because WoW is considered by many to be one of the most casual-friendly MMOs, and yet discussion is always raging every day about the game either being too casual or too hardcore, or somewhere in the middle that some guy doesn't quite like and it should be maybe 2 inches to the left. So, do you think, from the perspective of a game designer and someone who's pretty savvy in these things, and as a player, have Blizzard struck the correct balance between those two camps?
I think there's kind of two parts to the answer, and the first part really has to do with the whole definition or lack thereof of casual and hardcore. I mean, I think those two, categories are relatively arbitrary and shift all the time. I mean, just over the past year, or past several years, the definition of a casual game has expanded and expanded again and expanded again, and shifted closer to quote-unquote hardcore games, and hardcore games have lightened up and become casualized, and the whole casual is killing my hardcore or whatever. And I mean, I think it's kind of a case of the lines in the sand are relatively arbitrary and are shifting all the time, and so to kind of make some of those arguments is hard to really back it up, because that line is going to be in a totally different place, and now it won't be too casual, or maybe will be too casual or whatever. As far as WoW is concerned, I mean, I think Blizzard has done an amazing job of creating a game that people can come in and play in almost any way they want to. They can get out what they want. Someone out there is going in and is just playing the game, levels up. I have a friend who's like this, basically levels up to max level, kind of plays around a little bit, does a couple 5-mans, and this game is done, and puts it away until the next expansion comes out, and other people are crafting and playing the auction house game and running around and doing more quests, and then all the way through to hardcore raiders. So I mean, I think they've made a lot of ways to play the game, and I think that people who have issues with where that line of casual versus hardcore is, maybe haven't exactly found their niche, or just I hate to be condescending like this, but maybe just like to complain, because I mean, you can kind of get out what you in it. I mean, if you want to do hardcore stuff, especially not so much with Nax, but now that they've introduced the hard modes and stuff, I'm sorry, anyone who beats Nimmer 25-man hard mode, just watching a video of that, they're really, really hardcore. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so to follow up that question then, I guess, as you said, the definition of hardcore and casual, they're constantly in flux and indeed somewhat arbitrary. But we could consider you perhaps an expert on the subject of casual, bearing in mind your current job description. So how would you personally define the casual player?
The casual player is a little bit harder to define, because realistically, from the perspective of Popcap and most casual companies, the casual player is anyone who's breathing. Casual players, it's a definition that, and this is part of the reason why it's kind of an arbitrary line of casual versus hardcore, is because technically speaking, hardcore players are within the audience of casual games, because casual games are designed to let anyone come in and play them. They're very easy to learn. Not necessarily easy all the way down. I mean, we definitely try to add a lot of depth to our game that people can, find and be challenged by down the road, but, make it very easy to pick up, very easy to understand what's going on, very not super complicated controls. I mean, most of our games can be played with a button on a mouse, and that's it. We don't even require the second mouse button. Just try to keep it simple, easy to approach, easy to learn, and, have a lot of replay value that goes on and on and on. Sometimes that comes in the form of levels and depth and strategy and stuff, and sometimes, with Bejeweled, it plays forever. But, so, the casual player is anyone at all from, very young kids to very older people, who haven't necessarily grown up around games and are kind of new to this whole quote-unquote internet thing. It's anyone who wants to play a game. They realize they want to play a game, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you did mention that your intended demographic, your audience perhaps, is anyone who's breathing. So, how is it that Popcap's able to consistently release products which also appeal to the more dyed-in-the-wool style of game? I mean, we've seen the success of Peggle. Bookworm Adventures did particularly well among hardcore players. I played it, I enjoyed it. A lot of my friends played it, also enjoyed it. And Plants vs. Zombies is seemingly doing very well amongst gamers who you perhaps would not necessarily associate with that sort of casual style of play. So, I suppose the question would be, what's your secret?
It's hard to exactly, put it in. Some of our games have not been very popular with hardcore gamers. I mean, I don't think there are very many hardcore gamers out there that are seriously into Bejeweled or Chuzzle as anything more than I have nothing else to do, and so I'm going to play this. With a lot of our games, like Bookworm Adventures, we set out to kind of make a crossover title that's kind of like a casual RPG. I mean, it's RPG elements with Bookworm spelling gameplay, and I'm actually kind of surprised it took off, because I didn't think, while I knew that there were spelling nerds out there, I didn't know that they would also be into RPGs. I guess that's a lesson for you. But I mean, it's kind of the same thing as you just kind of make games that are easy to get into but have that depth. And I mean, I think Peggle and Bookworm Adventures and Plants vs. Zombies all have a lot of strategic depth, and a lot of things to do. It takes a little while to ramp up, but there are a lot of things to master and things to find in the games that hardcore gamers can. I hate to say can. They kind of can sense it. They figure out pretty early on that there's more going on beneath the surface than the initial intro levels would lead you to believe, and that's what I think. I mean, hardcore players in general enjoy mastering systems and finding that depth and playing through that depth. And there's also something to be said. We put a lot of effort into making sure our games are of high quality, and that's another thing that I think a lot of hardcore gamers can respect, at the very least, is that there is a lot of effort and time and love put into these games, and it shows, I think. So I guess our secret would be we're all hardcore gamers, but we make casual games that we want to play, and since we're hardcore gamers, a lot of hardcore gamers also want to play them, so
that would make sense. So, speaking of hardcore gamers and indeed the games that you develop, let's talk about your new one. How exactly did the concept for Plants vs. Zombies come about?
So our the developer of Plants vs. Zombies was also the developer of Insane Aquarium, George Fan. He also, as a point of trivia, him and the programmer Todd Simple both used to work at Blizzard. Blizzard.
Really?
Yep, they both used to work at Blizzard North, I think specifically, for a while, working on Diablo. One of the earlier incarnations of Diablo 3, I think. Mm-hmm. So they are both pretty hardcore guys as well. But yeah, George was trying to come up with a game idea that, he always kind of did these side projects, even while working at Blizzard, and it was kind of a culmination of a bunch of different things that were going on with him, and trying to come up with a sequel for Insane Aquarium, and he really got into the tower defense games as when they were just the WoW or Warcraft 3 mods, and a bunch of different separate things. He was teaching his girlfriend how to play Magic at the time, and it all kind of came together and created the start of what became Plants vs. Zombies. And Popcap came in and was like, we want to hire you to just basically make games in San Francisco for us. And him and Todd, we got on board, and they kind of worked away at Plants vs. Zombies until it was the awesome thing you see today.
Now, the concept of tower defense, or in this case, flower defense, fantastic, I know, it inherently contains some advanced concepts such as min-maxing, build orders, and theoretical planning. I personally do enjoy playing a kind of thing itself. Indeed, I was smashing my screen in a defense grid earlier because I somehow cannot get it right. So, are you concerned that Plants vs. Zombies might end up being perhaps a little bit too complex for some people? And what steps did the designers take to minimize that?
I think it was definitely a concern of ours from very early on. We weren't really sure exactly how the casual audience, or really any audience, would kind of take Plants vs. Zombies. There were multiple concerns. Is it going to be, too casual-y looking, or, looked down upon because it's casual for the hardcore gamers to get into it? Will there be that crossover audience? Is it going to be too difficult for casual gamers to even understand what's going on and get into it? To some degree, we took some solace in the fact that, if you look at Insane Aquarium at its core and the way it actually works out when you're playing it, especially at higher levels, it's an RTS. It has, build orders and all that kind of craziness. It's just very, very obfuscated, if you will, by, very simple ramp up and very, simple approach to the concepts. And so we kind of tried to do the same thing here. We took a lot of time to make the initial ramp, the tutorial sections, very straightforward, and really kind of ease players into this whole idea of build orders, and also keeping the experience fresh and mixing it up a little bit, and which some of the mini game stages are designed to kind of give players more room to experiment and figure out new and better strategies, and kind of push them towards, here's the hardcore concepts that you need to get around, but here it's in fun mini-game form, or, let's ease you into it by giving you one plant every level and sort of make it very easy for someone to kind of learn without it being this beating over the head tutorial, everything's in your face right away. A lot of the upgrade system that a lot of tower defense games have, and is one of the more complicated things of the choice of when do I upgrade this tower versus when do I just make a new tower. And we don't even really get into that until you get to open up the store and you start. It's like you have to choose to participate in that level, and even then it's a very simple version. It's another seed that you plant on top of an existing seed, rather than my level 3 sunflower versus my level 12 pea shooter or anything like that. So it's just very gradually introduced, and it's there. The more you play it, the more you'll get into the hardcore elements and the strategy and stuff, but there's certainly a level of play that you can get away with where it's just on the surface not very hardcore and not very tower defense-y as far as some of the really complicated concepts, but then once you dig down, you can find as much hardcore as you'd like.
Well, there you go. Now, final question for you. We can consider this the challenge level of the interview. As you said last time when we recorded the interview that no longer exists, that you weren't so good at these, so I'm giving you about a week or so to practice. I'm going to give you another shot at it. So here we go. Say I'm a cynical 24-year-old gamer. And that's, of course, not me at all. No, absolutely not. And I view Popcap as the antithesis of everything gaming stands for. Sell me Plants vs. Zombies in 30 seconds or so.
It's a tower defense game through and through. I will give you that the first half hour or so is going to be a little bit slow. It ramps you into it very slowly, but there's tons of strategies. Once you get into the mini games and survival mode, it's super hardcore. It's an awesome game. There's 48 something different kind of plants, and it's something like probably a good 20 hours of gaming total if you include the mini games and puzzles and everything, and it's $10 for the cynical 24-year-old. 20 hours of gaming, $10. Come on.
You can't really argue with that, to be quite honest. So, Carl, thank you very much for coming into the studio today as we give the opportunity to all our interviewees. Is there anyone you'd like to give a particular message to today?
Yeah, I have, actually, last time where I had no idea who I would actually say anything to, I have a couple shout-outs. I want to give a shout-out to Naiad, an old guild friend that I hang out with constantly. And then also Brad, Tyler, Lee, and Evan, who are raid with me but are not part of Popcap. And finally, on the Popcap side of things, I want to give a shout out to our customer service intern, John Vici, who's been doing an excellent job for us for the past year or so, and just want to give him the props he deserves.
Excellent. Carl, thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gents, you're tuned in to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio on WCRadio.com. We'll be right back after this with more great content. Enjoy. Listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuned into Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Now, before I go into the topic, I have an update on the Deadly Boss mod situation. I thought it was a Google ad. I thought it was simply innocent, but I was wrong, indeed. I had a follow-up from Knight of Osiris, who provided me with the following email. It says, yes, you are correct that there is a Google Tower ad on the right side of the page. It didn't show because as soon as I saw the gold ad, I upped my system security, triggering AppBlock to fire on their site. I whitelist sites I trust, like WCRadio.com, allowing ads. But there is also a banner ad, the same one as the screenshot you sent me, showing at 2:46 EST, which was about 20, 30 minutes ago. For free WoW Gold, this image is not a Google ad. Checking the page source code and element properties, right-click properties on the ad, shows the image sourcing from the address, and I can't give that link, obviously, because that would be me linking to a gold-selling site, and that would be pretty stupid. It links directly to that site, and Google Ad Images source from http://star.googlesyndication.com, or a variation of the Google domain. Cadwallian will confirm this surely, and this ad does in fact not. And he provides me here with the code segment from deadlybossmods.com. So yes, we are going to retcon what we said at the start of the show, that DBM was just doing things innocently. They are in fact a bunch of freaking sellouts. Indeed they are. And it's difficult to express how angry that makes me. How can you, as a mod developer, seriously give ad space to gold sellers? These are the same guys that repeatedly hacked the sites that you host your stuff on. WoW Interface. Remember how many times WoW Interface has been hacked? At least a few times by gold sellers trying to insert keylogging code. Curse, I imagine, is not. I don't remember Curse ever having been hacked before, but I'm also quite sure that people have uploaded mods to Curse before that look like mods but are actually keyloggers. These are the sites that host your add-on, and you have the testicular fortitude to put a gold selling ad on your site? Are you out of your freaking minds? Look, I understand that the economy sucks and that Blizzard's new add-on policy also sucks, because it doesn't let you have donation links, blah, 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 blah. But that's not the point. The economy sucks. I don't just go and steal ham from the local butchers because, oh, well, I need some extra ham. That's not the point. It's like, yeah, WoW Radio took a hit as well on ad revenue. That's just the way it is. I understand, it sucks, but there are other ways to make money that do not involve advertising people who are actively working against the World of Warcraft community. How many of your users have been hacked by gold sellers? How many of your users are going to think, well, these guys are obviously just out for the cash? Let's face it. So you know what? I say this. I am opening up my hard drive. One of many. The O'Reilly drive, which is drive J. I go down to the file, folder, World of Warcraft. I open up the following folder. Interface. Add-ons. Let's see. Deadly Boss Mods. Let's select all of that. DBM. There we go. And now we hit the delete key. And bye-bye Deadly Boss Mods. Consider yourself boycotted. I'm going to go get bigwigs. I'm going to stick with bigwigs, and I'm never going to use your terrible mod again. Yeah, I accept. You made a good mod. It's fantastic. But you know what? I don't care. Because you support people that want to hack my account and my site and everyone else's account and site that they can get their bloody hands on. So screw your mod, and to be honest, I would strongly urge those listening to this show who have even the slightest feeling about gold selling and indeed the hacking that goes on surrounding gold selling being wrong to uninstall that damn mod and stop supporting these developers, and indeed any other developer that sells out in this manner. Get a spine. Grow one. In a special pot if you have to, a bonsai spine. But whatever the case, get one and realise that you are spitting in the face of your user base and indeed the entire WoW community. So Deadly Boss Mods, go bye-bye. Thank you very much. Bigwigs, folks. Bigwigs don't advertise that kind of thing. They actually support the WoW community as opposed to try and exploit it. Now that that's all over, let's get on with the content, shall we? Yes, we shall. Now, it's been a few weeks since Ulduar came out, and I've had the opportunity to sample everything up to Yogg-Saron so far. Didn't have a chance to go in on the General Vezax kill, but apparently he's not that great anyway. But I've killed everything else. We're up to Yogg-Saron. I wasn't there on the night we killed Vezax. Hopefully will be on Sunday. We'll see. Now, I think it's about time that I sit down and have a look at the instance and try and evaluate it so far. You know, I haven't done many of the hard modes yet. I have done the Flame Leviathan stuff, you know, a couple of hard modes and that. But otherwise, no. I haven't been able to go on the 10-man runs to do the hard modes there. But I have spoken to a number of guilds, including Insidia, regarding hard modes. And of course including Inner Sanctum, who will be on the show in the next couple of weeks. Yes, they will. They have a busy schedule, folks. But yes, they will be on the show. They have promised. So I think it's about time we evaluate it and compare it to the previous instances. It was called a work of art by some people. It was considered to be a great instance. And indeed, I still consider it to be a great instance. But just how great is it? And what innovations does it bring in? Well, obviously, the first obvious innovation, of course, is the large number of hard modes that you can find within the dungeon. And the idea, of course, of these hard modes is to give a experience to both the really, really good players and the average Joe players. Good experience to both. Yeah? And you can get better loot if you do it hard. And that also supposedly gives the instance a bit more replayability. Now, instances inherently have replayability because you've got to keep replaying them for the loot. So varying it up is a good thing, right? Yes, it is. However, from what I've seen so far, only some of the hard modes seem to have gotten it right. Flame Leviathan is one. Flame Leviathan got hard modes right. You can disable a bunch of different features, you can have all different combinations. There are loads of different ways you could potentially do that fight. And you gradually work your way up. I mentioned this in a previous show, it's a non-binary hard mode. Those are the best kind. However, you've got other hard modes that are not so great. Like, say, Hodious hard mode. Hodious hard mode sucks. Hodious hard mode is like DPS harder. And that's it. You know, you've got to kill them within like 2 minutes, otherwise the Cache of Winter, the rare Cache of Winter melts. The one for XT002, also not very good hard mode. The one for Mimiron, also not a very good hard mode. All binary hard modes, like you either do it this way or the other. And the problem is that due to the excessive nerfing, and indeed there is nerfs coming for Mimiron as well, bear in mind this fight is fine, right? Mimiron is okay. We've killed him several times, and indeed so have many other people. You don't need to nerf Mimiron, he's fine. You know the worst thing is? They're nerfing stuff that only stupid people die to, yeah? It's stuff like the rockets. Yeah, they've made the rockets have a longer flight time. Do you understand how easy it is to move out of a rocket? Seriously. That's the problem I've got with it. It's like, this is not what was making the encounter challenging to begin with. If you die to rockets, you're stupid. Lengthening the flight time of rockets doesn't fix the difficulty of the encounter. It just makes it more tolerant for idiots. It's the same as Heigen. You know, I bitched and moaned, quite frankly, about this. And to be honest, I think that's pretty fair. That they declawed Heigen. Heigen used to be, you stand in the goop, you die. Not anymore, you get to stand in 3, 4, maybe even 5 times before you die. It's the same now with Mimiron. Like, it's a difficult fight. Now what can we do to make it a little bit easier for those who are perhaps not quite so good at the game? Well, we can look at the core mechanics and perhaps alter them a little bit. No, actually, let's take the gimmicky mechanics that are really easy to avoid, and we'll nerf them instead. For no apparent reason. It's the same with the blinking light bombs and everything in XT002. I can understand, but not condone, nerfing the Tepanic Tantrum. Because that's actually hard. But nerfing the light bombs? No. Why? For what possible reason? I can't figure it out. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, in my opinion, with the hard modes. Some are good, some are not. But am I glad that they're there in the first place? Well, yes and no. I'm glad that they're there because it does provide a different way of experiencing the encounters, even if it's only like one or the other. I'm not glad they're there because it's being used as an excuse to nerf the normal modes and then just buff the hard modes to ludicrous levels or whatever. And it creates this gap, this separation. But anyway, I think that's enough about the hard modes. So let's look at the actual fights themselves and the design of the instance. First, the trash. This is something that a lot of people have been complaining about in previous instances, and rightly so. I mean, why wouldn't they? Trash sucks. Nobody likes trash. It's horrible. So, is there enough of it, and is it actually challenging? Now, they did continue with what they've been doing, indeed, since Molten Core, which is to provide epic drops on trash, and that's a good reason. Admittedly, I must say that it means that some of our guildies are like, at the end of a raid, oh, let's just go clear the trash. And I'm like, why? It respawns. Like, because it might drop an epic. No! I'm not sticking on 25 minutes for Vezek's trash. I want to go to bed! Leave me alone! Horrible people. It won't drop anything good anyway. Seriously, I can count the number of times I've actually had a more than minimum DKP bid on a drop from trash on the fingers of one hand. They don't drop anything good. It's never been the case. It was the same as old Nax when they dropped that shield that slowed you down. That's the quality of loot you can expect. Don't do it. It's a trick. An illusion created by Thoron Fields and Geranium Shadows. Now, Is there enough trash? Well, can you ever really say that? I'd prefer less. There's, in my opinion, the trash amount is just right. I think they've nailed it. There might be a little bit too much in the way to hold here, but they took a couple of things out of Freya's room, and I think Freya's about right now. You know, you've got to accept that Freya's going to be longer than most, because she's got the 3 Guardians. And killing those is optional. It's like Sartharian. Sartharian kind of annoys me because there's too much trash in that instance when you're going around and killing everything. And indeed, you've got to kill all the trash, because otherwise it'll come and mob you when you attempt to engage Sarth. But in a full-size instance, I can understand the trash being there. It's different to a one-shot boss, yeah? I don't see the point in having trash in Sartharian, for instance, because, well, you don't have trash in Malagos. So why have it there? It's another one-shot boss. There's plenty of one-shot bosses in the game that don't have at least that much trash. And for God's sake, Onyxia was like 3 pulls. Gruul was like 3 pulls. So was Magtheridon. You don't need all that much trash, in my honest opinion. Is the trash interesting? Yes. Mostly, at any rate. The trash on the way up to Flame Leviathan is, of course, yeah, it can get a little bit boring. But it is nice that you can switch between vehicles and roles. There's like, what, 5 different roles you can play? You can be on the bikes, you can be a driver for a demolisher, a cannoneer for a demolisher, or a driver for a siege, or a gunner for a siege. So there's like 5 different roles you can have, so it varies it up a little bit, and I'm kind of pleased with that. Blowing up towers and blowing up big colossus and setting oil on fire, I think they did a good job making that interesting, so I'll applaud them for that. The rest of the trash is also pretty solid. The Mimiron trash is hilarious. It is absolutely fantastic. I love the Mimiron trash. Now, what about the bosses? Difficulty-wise, let's compare it. Is it properly balanced? Well, I would have argued that yes, it used to be when they initially released it, in comparison to other instances like SSC, TK, Black Temple, Hyjal, stuff like that. I think that it was on the SSC TK level, and I think that was what they were supposed to be aiming for, but the nerfs that have come in after that, I think, have perhaps taken it slightly below that, and I think that's a little bit disappointing. Now, I can understand that they want to pull back a little bit from the difficulty level of TBC because it was supposedly all out of whack. It was way too overtuned at the start, and some things were, some things weren't. But I still find that a little bit disappointing as a raider who considers himself experienced, and I am. I've been raiding for quite a while, and someone who is not a complete idiot. I am finding certain fights now, like Ignis and Razor Scale, fights which have been nerfed a little bit too much to be rather boring now. The same with XT002. It's been nerfed too much. So, yeah, I think the difficulty on the early stuff is a bit dodgy, but the difficulty on the later stuff is good. It's solid. Iron Council, with all the optional hard modes, is great. Freya is good. Thorum is very well balanced. I actually really like that fight. It's very well put together. And there are some unique mechanics, like the gauntlet with the guy at the end who is sending fire either left or right down the corridor. When you've also got to have an arena team fighting over there, so you've got to split your party in 2. That's good. I like that. That's a lot of fun. Mimiron, great mechanics. The combining of all of these abilities together at the end. Awesome. And, of course, very, very funny, very amusing. Hodir, with the NPCs, a great encounter. A fight where positioning is key. Very much key. Big fan of that one, too. There's a lot of really great encounters in there. And I can't fault them on that. No, not at all. As regards to the actual boss fights, and let's face it, that's the important thing. Bang on. Absolutely stellar. And I did have a raid hiatus for the last couple of weeks because I was getting... It wasn't Ulduar I was getting bored of, it was raiding in general. I just needed a break, mainly due to the lack of time that I had. But now I'm back into it, and I'm loving it. I really am. I actually want to get in and do some 10-man hard modes because they themselves intrigue me. I find the idea of playing with perhaps with a smaller group of people and attempting to attain perfection and play 100% A-game to be a very attractive concept. So I'm glad that there's those options there now. I admit I was skeptical regarding 10 and 25s, but I think Ulduar has nailed it. So very happy about that, and I'm certainly hoping to have a lot more fun in there before the next piece of content. I'll be talking a bit about the Colosseum on next week's show because we're not going to have time this time around. Got a little bit of information, so hopefully there'll be a little bit more by next week. My name is TotalBiscuit, and listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. We've got time for the Illusion of Choice, which will be coming up after this break. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. So yeah, I'm pretty quiet on Vent, you know? Kinda laid back.
Oh my god, you noobs! DPS the ends!
I'd like to chill out, kick back, relax, raid with my friends. No worries, no stress.
How is that even possible? Are you 7 different shades of stupid? Move out of the fire!
It's important to make sure my orders come through loud and clear. I'm a bit, well, shy. I'm not particularly loud or anything. My last event server was really poor quality.
Tank it, for heaven's sakes! Tank it! How can you be so monumentally freaking terrible?
I discovered UGT Ventrilo servers. Amazing quality, great prices, and they're so reliable. It was perfect in every way. I mean, I was a pretty calm guy before, and now I've got even less reasons to worry.
Why? Why do I raid with you people?
Why not get one of your own? UGTservers.com. That's UGTservers.com. You'll be glad that you did. It's really helped me find my zen, you know? Yes, indeed, folks, you tune in to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I believe it is time that we look in the mailbag to find out whether or not any of you have managed to come up with something remotely tangible. It's the illusion of choice! Yes, it is. Now, there is one email I would like to pick for this week's illusion of choice. It's quite good, and I think it roasts a number of points that hit quite close to home, and I'd love to address them. So, here we go. Hey TB, Nightweaver here. Is WoW getting boring faster and faster? After each expansion, are people getting bored quicker than last expansion? Take, for example, Vanilla WoW that lasted for goddamn ages. I was still playing and having fun the day before BC. Well, I did have breaks, I wasn't playing all the time. Then comes Burning Crusade, and I had a lot of fun, and yet, even with having loads more to do, I still got bored. Wrath comes in a few weeks after Nax gets cleared, and I'm bored. And Ulduar comes along, and I'm having a blast, but how long will it last? What does Blizzard have to do, or will they do anything? Good question. Right. Okay. First things first. Comparing Vanilla WoW to expansion WoWs is an unfair comparison, and here's why. Vanilla WoW obviously lasted way longer than any expansion would. Why? Well, let's face it, one had 60 levels of content and one had 10. Yes? I mean, this should be relatively obvious for most people. There was a ton of leveling content, and not only that, but the game was brand spanking new, and there was a ton of things to explore and discover. People didn't rattle through raid content as fast as they do now. People are more experienced and better at the game. It's like Blizzard can't really design something that Insidia can't kill in a couple of days. Yeah? They just can't. The game's just not set up that way. These players have reached perhaps the apex of their potential and will kill anything that isn't artificially cock-blocked in one way or the other. Or should I say, El Polo Grande blocked. PvP's kind of the same. We used to PvP, you remember? We used to PvP for the sake of doing it. The Hillsbrad battles, oh yes. Taran Mill versus Southshore. You look back on that, and it was the stupidest thing. Nobody would ever do that now, and they don't. Why? Because there was no point. But, at that point, when people were like, oh, I'm level 38, I want to go fight people, yeah. I remember back in the day when I was actually fearful of being ganked, and I would look out and I'd be very careful. It's like, oh, it's red, it's 3 levels higher than me, run away! And it was kind of an adrenaline rush, not anymore. No, it's irrelevant. WoW was new and shiny back then. The expansions added more of the same because that's what people said they wanted. And of course, with people not usually knowing exactly what they want, you get into the situation where they say, well, I wanted this, but now I maybe don't like it so much. You know, I probably don't enjoy raiding as much as I used to. Why? Because I've done so much of it. Games are finite. MMOs generally have the most lifespan, and you certainly expect it if you're going to pay a monthly fee for it, but at the end of the day, you're still eventually going to get sick and leave. Simple as that. So, what do you do about it? What does Blizzard have to do about it? Well, you can innovate, Not the Druid kind of innovate, actually mean get a little bit of innovation in, change it round, make something new, a different experience. But here's the thing. WoW has been successful on the basis of what's in it right now, not on the basis of what might come some point in the distant future. That's its business model. That's how the game was designed. That's why it did well. So, if you're asking Blizzard to make a major U-turn in its design methodology and put in something brand new that is risky, that people may not like, then I think you're maybe stretching the bounds of reality there just a smidge. They're probably not going to do that. Yes, they're putting some new stuff. Like Wintergrasp is perhaps one of the biggest innovations. But at the end of the day, is it really? Not really. It's an outdoor battleground with siege vehicles. Now, they've been promising siege vehicles since like the first few months of WoW. It was one of the massive this is in development kind of things. And eventually it arrived. But think about something completely new. Let's think about it, right. Here's one for you. New expansion is in the middle of the sea, yeah? And they open up the area around the Maelstrom and they have a bunch of naval stuff, yeah? Lots of little... I can never pronounce the name for those tiny little islands. Archipelago. Yes, that's it. I'm very good. Archipelago. Lots of little archipelago, and guilds can own these archipelago. They can actually get a desert island of their very own and build stuff on it and do all kind of crazy stuff. Maybe farm rare coconuts. And guilds can own ships, and they can go around in the ships. They can get various different sizes of ships and have naval battles and take over other people's ships and all that kind of stuff. And while that sounds like a great idea perhaps to you and me, I can bet that a large swathe of the WoW community would absolutely bloody hate it. Because it's something completely new. Indeed, there is an element of loss there that was not previously in the game. The ability to lose something that you own, that could infuriate a large selection of the player base. A large swathe, indeed. And that's unfortunate because, I play Eve. So I know what losing things is like. I know I lost... Good lord, what did I lose? I lost a Prophecy Battlecruiser. No, it was a Harbinger, actually. Harbinger Battlecruiser, full named Tech 1 fitted. Now, bear in mind, this thing was probably worth about 180 million. That's not a lot to the long-time player, but I'd only been playing 2 months at this point, and that was a lot of money. I lost it because I decided to fly into an area that got me killed. Think about what would happen in WoW if that actually occurred. The riots on the forums. End of the day, this is a Care Bear game, and that actually restricts what Blizzard can do. Now, I do hope that they actually go and do something like that with the whole naval warfare, being able to take over. Having something that's not static within the world would be nice. But it's a risky venture. And you've got to understand it when Blizzard says, oh, I'm maybe not so into taking something, I don't know, it's risky, we might end up annoying the player base. You don't want to do that. It's not a very good idea. Now, certain games last longer than others. The developers of EVE Online, CCP, very accurately described the difference between WoW and EVE. Yeah? WoW is a theme park. EVE is a playground. Yeah? In a playground, you make a lot of your own fun. They set up all of the stuff, and you make your own fun within that area. Now, with WoW, WoW's basically a set of rides. Yeah? You go up for the ride, you get on the ride, or you play the game, you get your prize, and you do that over and over again, because the rides are fun. But occasionally, and indeed after a certain amount of time, those rides may get boring. So what do you do as a theme park owner? You introduce new rides, and that keeps people coming back. But eventually, people are going to stop coming to your theme park. Eventually. It's always got a bit of a shelf life. Whereas playgrounds, you always go back to a playground, because think of all the things you can do within the playground. You're not limited. You're limited only by your own imagination. Yes. Sounds like the back of a cereal packet. So what can they do? Well, they can continue down this course, because, to be honest, it comes down to the fact that Blizzard have a revolving door policy when it comes to their player base. There's a core of players that will just keep playing, but the rest of them are kind of like fair weather players. I'm a fair weather player. I'll keep coming back, but eventually I may leave for something better, like Star Trek Online, for instance. I'm a massive Star Trek nerd, and this idea of having a ship and flying it around, yeah, I don't care if that game is absolutely freaking terrible. I will play it. I will probably move to that game. It is very, very likely. So yes, there will be a Star Trek radio show of some description, and I will enjoy doing it very much. But that's way in the future. But can WoW hold my interest? Maybe. Coming up with the same raid content over and over again, and they're not really. You know, they're providing lots of different variations on it, but raiding is still raiding, and some people do get tired of it. I have less patience for raiding than I used to. I used to wipe in Molten Core for 8 hours and I was okay with it, but now if I wipe in a 4-hour run of Ulduar, I get frustrated and annoyed, and I wish I wasn't there. So do Blizzard really have to do something about that? Perhaps. Perhaps they do have to introduce a new kind of experience. Now, whether or not it's a hybrid between PvE and PvP, or they just come up with something entirely new, I don't know. But I do have the feeling that Wrath is going to be a very testing time for Blizzard, particularly with a lot of competition around, and players now having been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and having seen all of this stuff, and realising that, yeah, you know what? We've done it all before. And it doesn't matter if they bring the same thing with a different coat of paint, we're still going to finish it quicker and be sick of it quicker. And that's true. Can they do anything about it? I don't know, but what I think the player base has to realise is that they should stop expecting Blizzard to provide a game for the next 20 or 30 years. It's not going to happen. Eventually, you will get sick of the game, and it's not necessarily their fault. Yes, sometimes they will make a change that negatively impacts your play experience, and in that case, I suggest you go shout out from the rooftops in a constructive manner. That's the best way to do it. And for God's sake, don't call out Ghost Crawler. The amount of times like, Ghost Crawler believes this, get him fired. Shut up. Seriously, Ghost Crawler's the best thing that happened to your forum. Consider yourself lucky that you have him. We don't have anyone on Europe that does that kind of thing. Please present your comments constructively. You can do it with a bit of passion, you can get your emotions in there a bit, but don't let it affect your judgment. But eventually you're going to have to accept that sometimes it's not Blizzard's fault, and that you're just done. Yeah? It happens with single-player games all the time. I look at all the games on my shelf that I'm just done with. Do I blame the developers for that? No. I got my money's worth out of it. I continue to get my money's worth out of WoW, but when you stop getting your money's worth, you should stop playing. It's as simple as that. There's no reason to continue to play for a game that you do not enjoy. But then again, you can't expect Blizzard to always cater to you 100% of the time. It doesn't happen. It's a balance between the two. And no, you don't have to be playing WoW for the next 10 years. Seriously, find a new hobby. My name is TotalBiscuit, and you're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. It is time for shout-outs. Please, please, please email thebelllock@gmail.com or PM me on IRC, or you can send me a tweet on twitter.com/TotalBiscuits. Get your shout-outs in for the last few minutes of the show. Someone did it preemptively 18 minutes ago. Smart guy. But he has a Pokemon avatar. Not so smart. His name is Zard9. He says this: shout out to Belfadin of Boulder Fist US. Which one? I'm sure there are quite a few. I can imagine. So yes. Get your shout-outs into me. Please name it Picard, please. No, I'm not naming my Star Trek Online show Picard, please. That's terrible. I'll probably come up with some clever pun involving subspace. No. Or Deflected-ish. Yeah, let's do that. Deflected-ish. Everybody loves it. Now, Akis Work asked me to give a shout-out. And he also came up with a very nice addition to my analogy. The theme park rides always break down. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, shout-out to Akis Work and indeed the entirety of the WoW Ace channel. That's the mod developers. They're on irc.freenode.org or .com. I can't remember which. I'm on calvino.freenode.net. So yeah, they're over there, so shout out to the entire channel and keep up the good work with your fantastic mods. I would like to send a shout out to the guild Chikara and the player Theron on Frostmain EU. That's from Merceness. And a shout out to Bear What 8 Slanic, to any fellow Cambridge students cramming an exam term. Seriously, Bear What 8 Slanic is a Cambridge student? What the hell? That's quite surprising. A shout out to VOA for being so damn easy, even after Emelon free conquest badges. Thanks, that's from Seed. Yeah. That's terrible. I hate Emelon. I hate the entirety of the entire thing. Ugh. It's a scum pit. Can I get a shout out to everyone who takes part in deleting their Deadly Boss Mods folder? Yeah! Fight the power. I can't stand people who sell out to gold sellers. That's for Zifori, 80 Belf Paladin Winterhoof US. A shout out to myself, Stormtamer, and myself, Stormtamer. That's from Stormtamer. Yes, if you haven't listened to the 4th anniversary Blue Plz show, you should. It's on the archive. You can get it on iTunes or on WCRadio.com. We had 7 people in the studio. It was kind of silly. Oh dear. Shout out to Exurion, a good friend of mine. A shout out to Corticus, the most awesome laser chicken of Dragonmore. And a shout out to Kebab. Kebab? Seriously? TB, love the show today. How about a shout out to my guild, Shadow Wolves on Doomhammer US. Thanks, that's from folks. Shout out, so giving a shout out to Orlon, please, on Burning Steps EU for being an awesome druid and not deleting his character. And a shout out to me for finally being finished with my SQA exams. 1 week of free time. Ho! Yes, I would agree. Exams suck. I'm glad I don't have to do them. Can I give a shout out to Arik? What the hell is that? Some kind of crazy RP name. Arikatoyan on Rune Totem EU about turning 80. Thanks for the great show, TB. And a shout out to all the geeks who play and listen at work. That's from Drago Ski. And a shout out to the Seventh Circle on Malfurium US for their favourite Red Pally, not PhD. And also a last shout out to LA Lacta Est of the Earthen Ring US. That's from Loa Gagliardi, who was complaining that I insulted my listeners earlier. Yes, that's what happens. I'm not a very nice person, folks. Ladies and gents, I am out of here. Please, by all means, tune into the show, Rawcast.com. Go check it out. Tomorrow at 2200 British time or 5 o'clock in the afternoon EST. It will be fantastic. We are supporting the charities. Child's Play, as it happens. We'll have Charitable Dave, the winner of the charity auction, on there. And trust me, that it's going to be very, very amusing. That I can guarantee. I get to cut loose because they don't have the same rules that I imposed on this station. I get to do things like swear and say dirty, filthy innuendos regarding El Polo Grande. I'm out of here, folks. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Check out the rest of our shows on WCRadio.com. Rate and review us using iTunes. And if you like what we're doing here, we have a donate button. Your spare dollars are always appreciated to help us run our very high bandwidth server. Thanks for listening. You, as always, have been a stellar audience. Tune in to Wild Things Considered, which is coming up at 7 p.m. EST. That's midnight GMT on WCRadio.com. Good night. Well, I did say there'd be a zombie theme. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, a show that airs exclusively on WCRadio.com on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. EST. You can check out our archives on our website at WCRadio.com and subscribe to our RSS feeds. Don't forget to rate and review us using iTunes, and if you wish to leave constructive criticism, that is always appreciated. Head over to WCRadio.com/forum and post in the threads there. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, a show that airs exclusively on WCRadio.com on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. EST. You can check out our archives on our website at WCRadio.com and subscribe to our RSS feeds. Don't forget to rate and review us using iTunes, and if you wish to leave constructive criticism, that is always appreciated. Head over to WCRadio.com/forum and post in the threads there. Thank you for listening.